I am Diogenes of Sinope, and my life, like no other, has been a journey against convention and into the heart of simplicity. Born in the city of Sinope on the Black Sea sometime around 412 BCE, my path has been one of rebellion and questioning, against the comforts of society, against accepted beliefs, against even the simplest human norms. Through my every act, I aim to strip away illusions, revealing the truth beneath and showing that virtue is found not in possessions or in social status, but in living in harmony with nature, following reason and not blindly accepting the conventions others revere. My story begins in Sinope, where my father, Diogenes, was a money changer. Though comfortable, our life was shaken when we were accused of debasing the currency, a charge that brought us shame and sent me into exile. I found myself an outcast in Athens, stripped of family, fortune, and any hope of normalcy. Yet it was this very loss that freed me. Stripped of material ties, I was able to see life from a perspective few experience. In Athens, I encountered Antisthenes, a disciple of Socrates, and became his student. Antisthenes had a fierce way of rejecting societal values, seeking virtue over luxury, and striving for self-sufficiency. He refused to accept me at first, even beating me to keep me away, but I persisted, recognizing in him a way of life that appealed to my spirit, a life governed by truth, courage, and an uncompromising adherence to nature's simplicity. I decided to pursue the Cynic life, one of true freedom, by stripping away all that was unnecessary and focusing only on what was real. From that day, I sought to live free from all conventions. My philosophy was one of active demonstration, a rejection of comfort and luxury in favor of honesty and virtue. I made my home in a large ceramic jar, rejecting the need for a house. I owned nothing beyond a cloak, a walking stick, and a small bowl, which I later discarded when I saw a boy drinking water with his hands, realizing even a bowl was an unnecessary luxury. These acts were not madness or self-deprivation for their own sake. They were my statement against the artificial needs society imposed on people. My lifestyle shocked and amused people in equal measure. I would walk the streets with a lamp in broad daylight, proclaiming, "I am looking for an honest man." People would scoff and jeer, but the meaning was clear. In a city like Athens, where pride and appearance often came before truth, finding an honest man was as rare as finding light in daylight. I wandered barefoot, often ragged and unwashed, refusing social niceties. To me, etiquette, pride, and manners were forms of deception, ways to hide one's true nature. In every interaction, I made it a point to strip away this veneer, exposing both the ridiculous and the hollow in people's lives. My message was simple. Virtue does not come from wealth, reputation, or appearance, but from self-mastery and honesty. It was perhaps my encounter with Alexander the Great that epitomizes my way of life. The young conqueror had heard of me and came to visit, intrigued by the stories of the strange philosopher who lived in a jar. He found me lying in the sun, entirely at peace. "I am Alexander the Great," he announced, standing before me, an offer of generosity in his voice. "Ask of me whatever you wish, and I will grant it." I looked up at him, unbothered by his stature or power, and said, "Move a little to the side. You are blocking my sunlight." This response, simple and direct, stunned him. Here stood a man who claimed he would conquer the world, yet I was not moved by his power or his offer. My words reflected my freedom, my indifference to riches or fame, and my willingness to confront even the most powerful man with the same disregard for social standing. As he left, Alexander is said to have remarked, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." Cynicism, as I practiced it, is a philosophy of radical self-sufficiency and freedom. We cynics sought to live in accordance with nature, avoiding the artificial desires and conventions that corrupted people's souls. To me, society was filled with hypocrisy. People craving wealth, status, and fame, living for appearances rather than genuine virtue. I aimed to tear down these illusions, showing that happiness could be achieved without riches, possessions, or even comfort. To live virtuously, one must learn to live without. This philosophy extended to relationships as well. I avoided attachments and personal bonds, seeing them as yet another trap that kept people from true freedom. My life was a constant practice of detachment, of letting go of the things that bind and blind. My behavior often shocked people. My habit of eating in the marketplace, relieving myself in public, or defying modesty norms were all acts to show that these rules were inventions, shackles to control people rather than means to enhance their lives. Many misunderstood my actions as madness, but they were, in fact, demonstrations of freedom. My life was a challenge to others, daring them to question why they lived as they did. I lived by example, showing that it was possible to be self-sufficient, unafraid of poverty, hardship, or the judgments of others. My presence in Athens reminded people of what they chose to ignore, that virtue, if real, must stand against comfort, convention, and societal demands. Though I left no written works, my words and deeds echoed through the centuries. My life influenced philosophers who came after me, from the Stoics, who admired my endurance and reason, to modern thinkers who saw in my rejection of convention a path to authenticity. I showed that courage is not the absence of fear but the rejection of false needs, and that happiness is found not in abundance but in simplicity. Looking back, I am proud of the life I lived. I was beholden to no man, no possession, no authority. I did not need the comforts of a home, the safety of wealth, or the approval of society. I lived as I wished, following reason and instinct, keeping only what was necessary and letting go of the rest. By living a life of radical freedom, I showed others that they, too, could break free from the illusions they had accepted as truth. I may not have riches or titles to leave behind, but I leave a legacy of questioning, of radical honesty, and of self-reliance. My name may be remembered for my eccentricities, my oddities, but I was no madman. I was, perhaps, the only free man in Athens, and that freedom, that self-mastery, is the greatest achievement any man can attain.